After a long dry season, the late autumn showers bring new life to the Erukian Savanna. Within the canopy of the prickle tree, a Raindrop Sprite darts through the branches. She follows her nose between the pools of blood-red nectar held in the cup-shaped whorls of waxy leaves. The sprite sticks her head into the whorl and hovers while lapping up the nectar with her long tongue. As she drinks, her downy mane both collects pollen from the leaves and fertilizes the flower at the center of the whorl. Once she has tasted her fill, she follows the sickly sweet scent to her next meal. Hello, and welcome to Lands Unknown for another entry of the Speculative Atlas. In this chapter, we will explore a subset of creatures living in the Erukian Wet-Winter Dry Summer Savanna. If you enjoy the video, I would appreciate a like and a subscribe if you haven't already. And if you would like to support the channel in the continuation of the Speculative Atlas, you can leave a one-time donation on Ko-fi, or you become a member on Ko-fi or Patreon. Before we begin, a quick note on Dovian biota. Flora and fauna present on Dove are autochthonous, which means they originate on the planet. As an example, Erukian monotrematoforms are mammal-equivalent animals that evolved from Aleo-Erukian mammaliforms parallel to Terran monotremes. I will be discussing the decisions behind the direction of the speculative biology in more depth in the eventual footnotes to Chapter 2. With that, we'll begin by looking at Dove's biogeographical realms. Biogeography describes the distribution of species in space and categorizes communities of flora and fauna into different ecoregions for study. Tectonic and evolutionary histories divide the biosphere into large biogeographic realms, which describe a broad community of plants and animals that evolved together. Realms are separated by barriers to dispersal, like tall mountains, deep oceans, and climatic changes that prevent organisms from significant species interaction between communities. Dove is divided into 6 realms that roughly align with the subcontinents of the supercontinent Becerra: the Alean bioregion, the Laoneo-Takean bioregion, the Palomian bioregion, the Zalaean bioregion, and the Erukian bioregion. Across the Aphrodite Ocean, the many islands have their own ecosystems, which make up the diversity of the Aphrodisian realm. But these communities share more in common with one another due to the dynamics of ocean dispersal than those on the supercontinent. The Erukian realm is separated from the Zalaean realm by the Turungian Plateau, eastern ranges of the Khotars, and the semi-arid Trans-Turungian Desert, which acts like an ecotone, or transition area, between the two realms. In the west, the Erukian realm is separated from the Laoneo-Taikean realm by the Cismetrine Desert along the coast of the Taiki Sea, which also functions as an ecotone, and the strong currents of the Agathi Sea. Biomes are large, stable regions defined by the predominant type of vegetation, which is closely linked to climate, like temperate rainforests or alpine tundras. Within biomes, there are local communities of plants and animals that share similar characteristics, which are grouped into ecoregions. Erukia has a swath of continuous tropical savanna biome from the western peninsula to the shores of the eastern bay, categorized by herblands mixed with evergreen shrublands and woodlands. The Erukian savanna ecoregion is distinct from other tropical savanna biomes due to the unique animals of the Erukian realm and the rare climatic conditions. Where most Dovian tropical savannas experience wet summers and dry winters, life on the Erukian savanna is shaped by a tropical dry summer, wet winter climate. The wet season begins after the autumn equinox, when southeasterly winds bring showers that herald the arrival of the monsoon. Perennial rivers overflow their banks into the floodplains. Intermittent rivers revive, and seasonal lakes and wetlands flood. The frequency of precipitation steadily increases until the winter solstice, after which the savanna experiences weeks of rain without a break in the clouds. After a month, with only rare glimpses of the sun, days without significant precipitation increase. Spring showers continue with diminishing intensity until the spring equinox, leading to decreased stream discharge. But as the monsoon ends, rising temperatures melt the snowpack, causing a rise in river levels and flash floods in mid-spring. Northwesterly fawn winds descending the leeward slopes of the Khotars and Aravnian highlands bring clear and cloudless skies to the Erukian savanna. The heat of the summer in the lowlands dries up seasonal lakes and wetlands, yet perennial rivers predictably flood around the summer solstice from glacial melt. Towards the end of the summer, cooling temperatures in the mountains and a lack of precipitation caused year-round rivers and lakes to drop to their lowest level, which persists until the return of autumn showers. Life on the Erukian savanna has been shaped by the rhythms of the seasons: torrential rain followed by blue skies, and the steady flow of rivers punctuated by floods that overflow the banks. The foundation of this ecoregion are a family of plants that have adapted to the dynamic seasonality of the savanna. Prickle plants are representative of the Metamorphflora, a family of plants that evolved on Erukia beginning 150 million years ago, and have since dispersed to the other realms and become the most successful group of flora on Dove. In response to the shifting climate, lower atmospheric CO2, and variable moisture of the present era, Metamorphflora embraced plasticity to alter their physiology depending on local abiotic conditions. These evergreen plants have waxy leaves and store water in their rhizomes to survive during the long dry season. In shallow soils with low moisture, prickle plants are herbaceous ground cover, growing short whorls of waxy leaves from the rhizome, while wetter soils allow the leaves to grow taller. In deeper soils, the prickle plant becomes a shrub. Woody shoots with stiff, defensive prickles growing from the epidermis, topped with whorls, emerge from the rhizome. These stems bifurcate at the beginning of every wet season. The best abiotic conditions cause the woody shoots to graft together into a single trunk, forming a tree that can grow as tall as 15 meters. The regular, bifurcating structure creates the distinct, umbrella-like crown. To support the crown, prickle trees have evolved secondary growth. While whorls are always present at the growth tip, they also appear along the branches. Prickle trees also grow the sharp, stiff prickles from the trunk and lower branches to deter predation. Prickle plants propagate through horizontal growth from the rhizomes and seed dispersal. The whorls seep a sweet nectar in moist conditions that attract raindrop sprites to pollinate the stigma of the flower. Cavities in the trunks of prickle trees have evolved to house raindrop sprites and support the mutualistic relationship. After pollination, a flower grows from the center of the whorl and forms red berries. Prickle herb and shrub flowers have multiple, smaller berries, while prickle tree flowers have a large, single berry in each whorl. The berries contain capsaicin and other chemical irritants to deter consumption by non-dispersers and protect against fungal growth. A single prickle plant can spread over a large area and frequently include all three morphologies: herb, shrub, and tree. Copses of Metamorphflora trees see many different plants intersecting and grafting together. Grafted prickle plants share nutrients, immunities, and communicate genetic and epigenetic information. These strategies have allowed the prickle plant and other Metamorphflora to thrive in the climate regime of the present era. Sprites are small, flying monotrematoforms characterized by wings with flight spines. The ancestors of sprites were small beaked animals with backs covered in hollow, defensive spines. As Dove cooled 150 million years ago, some of these spines became downy, plumaceous spines for warmth and spread down the forelimbs. Some of these species transitioned to an arboreal lifestyle in the Metamorphflora trees, becoming smaller, lighter, and relying less on their defensive spines. In the canopy, these ancestral sprites leapt between branches and trunks to forage and escape predators. Many parasprites developed gliding lifestyles that favored patagium membranes. But one group of protosprites evolved pennaceous spines along the forelimbs. During a prolonged extinction event 100 to 75 million years ago, early sprites developed powered flight, which prompted a period of rapid diversification and adaptive radiation. Many sprites are the primary pollinators of Metamorphflora, which help them spread throughout Basera and makes them one of the few monotrematoforms found widely outside of Erukia. Raindrop sprites are the primary pollinator of the prickle plant, and build nests within the cavities of the prickle tree trunks. They use their long tongues to lap up red nectar weeping from whorls. Coloration helps them camouflage in the canopy. They are dull gray in the shade to blend in with the branches, and their iridescent spines reflect pale greens like the waxy leaves. Adults weigh about 20 grams and have a height and wingspan of around 22 centimeters. While many sprites are migratory, raindrop sprites are sedentary and stay within an established area year-round, though their range expands during the winter as autumn showers trigger nectar to flow further afield from perennial rivers, lakes, and wetlands. Many individuals nest in the same prickle tree and visit the same whorls, though unrelated sprites never share a cavity. The rare instances of interspecific violence between raindrop sprites occurs over nesting locations in the spring. Raindrop sprites are promiscuous, which means male and female sprites mate with multiple partners. Female raindrop sprites lay 2 eggs in the early autumn, which are incubated for 3 weeks before hatching. During this season, sprites tend to enter a dormant state and slow their metabolism ahead of the autumn showers to conserve energy. Once hatched, the mother nurses her puggles for 2 months, after which they can live with the mother for up to a year before finding their own cavity. Shovel-nosed brownies are small, herbivorous monotrematoforms that graze on fields of prickle herbs. They weigh between 10 and 15 kilograms and live in communal warrens shared between a dozen adults. These brownies have evolved into effective burrowers that tunnel with their spade-shaped beaks and scrape away earth with their long forelimb claws. Like their ancestors, brownies walk on their knuckles, which stops their claws from scraping against the ground. Brownie boars dig warrens into elevated ground near rivers or seasonal wetlands and lakes to take advantage of annual forage while keeping their homes safe from flooding. In the early autumn, the dominant brownie boars mate with the breeding sows. Warrens tend to have an equal number of boars and sows, or a majority of sows, and one or more dominant boars. After a few weeks of gestation, the sows lay 1 to 3 eggs, which hatch after 10 days of incubation in mid-autumn. Newly hatched puggles are underdeveloped and require constant attention and weaning for the first month. During this time, the boars defend the entrances to the warren with their bodies, positioning their facial shields and sharp beaks towards the surface to ward off any potential threat. Sows emerge from the warren at the onset of late autumn showers to graze in herds on young prickle herbs, and frequently return to their nursery burrow to wean the puggles. By the end of winter, the puggles have grown into juveniles who accompany their mothers for up to a year. From early spring to late summer, brownies graze during the morning and evening to build up fat reserves for the dry autumn mating and nursing period. Juveniles leave the warren after 2 to 3 years. Young boars venture out with their peers to dig a new warren or seize one from other boars. Most young sows search for an established warren to join, though they may stay in their birth warren if the adult boar population has cycled. Raindrop sprites share the crowns of prickle trees with unions of vibrant yellow-crested blue dragons. Dragons dispersed from the Laneo-Tychaean realm to Erukia prior to the mass extinction between 175 million years ago. These early dragons were smaller generalists that diversified into 2 groups after arriving on the subcontinent: the arboreal one-fingered dragons and terrestrial two-fingered dragons. One group of arboreal dragons adapted into frugivorous niches, evolving into blue dragons, which hedged out earlier monotrematic frugivores to become the primary seed dispersers of metamorph flora. The vast majority of blue dragons are specialists, feeding on the fruits of a single species of metamorph flora. Yellow-crested blue dragons are the primary seed dispersers of prickle plants, and one of the largest species of blue dragons, measuring about 50 centimeters tall at the shoulder with an average wingspan of 1.2 meters. Erukian dragons are overwhelmingly monomorphic, meaning both sexes exhibit the same physical characteristics, including size and coloring. The eponymous yellow cranial crests are hollow structures made of bone covered in bright filaments, while their tails are long ribbons tufted with cottony fibers. They are territorial dragons that roost in large groups, called unions, which include dozens of individuals, though they often feed in smaller groups or pairs. Like most dragons, yellow-crested blues are monogamous and mate for life. Like other species of blue dragons, yellow crests store the chemical irritants from the fruits they eat, primarily capsaicin, in a toxungin gland near the gullet. Muscles squeeze the gland and squirt the fluid through a nozzle at the back of the oral cavity above the esophagus. Blue dragons use the toxagon to deter predators and for interspecific competition. Adult yellow crests store enough toxin in their gland for about 20 uses. They spit at one another to compete over mates during courtship, and when food is scarce in prolonged dry seasons, unions of yellow-crested blues spit irritating chemicals at one another over bountiful trees and shrubs along perennial rivers, lakes, and wetlands. Like many animals, dragons have a nictitating membrane or translucent third eyelid that they activate to protect their eyes from toxungins. They can also rapidly blink their third eyelid to purge any irritants. Breeding pairs of the union make their nests in the large cavities of old prickle trees and lay their eggs in mid-spring. Each mother lays 1 or 2 eggs, and the father coats each egg in his toxungin as a nuptial gift to protect the eggs and reapplies as needed. The parents take turns incubating the eggs to let the other forage, while the union posts guards around the nest. The wormlings hatch after 30 days and stay in the nest for the summer while their parents bring them regurgitated fruit. The wormlings fledge with the autumn showers and rely on their parents for the first wet season. Juveniles remain with their birth union until they court a mate from another union at 6 years old. Young adults land in clearings and display their ribbons in their crests and dances, then spit at the faces of their rivals. After bonding, the pair can stay with one of their birth unions, join a neighboring union, or establish a new union depending on the availability of resources. Across the savanna, herds of Yales graze on the leaves of prickle herbs and shrubs. The largest species are the longhorned Yales. A fully grown longhorn stands 1.3 meters tall at the shoulder and weighs an average of 450 kilograms. For most of the year, cows and bulls form separate herds. Bull herds are smaller and composed of unrelated individuals, while cow herds are larger, with several generations of mothers and daughters traveling together with their immature calves. During the wet season, Yales graze the open herblands as they migrate between seasonal wetlands. In the dry season, mighty herds gather along the banks of perennial lakes for the rut, but disperse into lowlands to feed on the young leaves growing after the summer floods. When under threat, healthy members of the herd attempt to form a ring around the old and young, pointing their fearsome 50-centimeter long horns towards the predator. They shield their eyes from dragon toxungans with the bony crests protruding from their brows, and their facial masks extend back from the skull to protect their necks. Yales also retain the nictitating membranes of the earliest monotrematiforms. These third eyelids provide protection from the elements, prickles while feeding, and dragon toxungans. After the summer solstice, when the perennial rivers overflow their banks, large herds of longhorned Yales congregate in the floodplains. Bulls compete for access to receptive cows. The mother carries her egg while it develops in utero for 75 days. The egg is laid directly into her pouch, and the puggle hatches after 15 days of incubation. For the next 28 weeks, the puggle nurses and grows in the pouch. The calf emerges from their mother's pouch in the spring. Male calves stay with their mother for several years until they reach maturity and join a bull herd, while female Yales stay with their mother's cow herd for their entire lives. Flying within and above the canopy of the savanna's dry and gallery forests, red-winged black dragons are fearsome carnivores that hunt on the wing. Adults are around 75 centimeters tall at the shoulder, with 190 centimeter wingspans on average. Like blues, black dragons are a family of one-fingered Erukian dragons. However, black dragons specialized as aerial predators. Red dragons are named for the bright red skin visible on their muzzle, crests, legs, and patagium. Where blue dragons concentrate chemicals from the fruits they eat into their toxungan, black dragons store excess hydrogen peroxide from biological processes in the reservoir of their toxungan gland, along with other acids and irritants. A valve releases the hydrogen peroxide into a reaction chamber lined with catalase, which catalyzes the hydrogen peroxide rapidly into water and oxygen. The exothermic reaction vaporizes the water into steam and builds up pressure, which violently expels the spray from the nozzle. In order to not harm themselves or denature the enzymes, the toxungan is released in short bursts of rapid pulses at a rate of hundreds of times a second. Black dragons spit during courtship to defend their territory and while hunting larger prey. Predatory dragons like redwings tend to use their toxungan sparingly or as a last resort for interspecific competition, since the toxin is used for hunting and dragons need time and energy to refill the reservoir. Like blues, black dragons activate their nictitating membrane to protect their eyes during interspecific violence, but also while hunting. Redwings hunt in unions composed of small family units, which include the parents and their juveniles. But in the dry season, neighboring families form strikes of over a dozen members to take advantage of Yale migrations or large congregations of blue dragons. Unions soar over the canopy looking for prey until they find an opportune target. Redwings dive on smaller animals like brownies or lone blue dragons to kill them with their talons. Larger quarry requires coordination from the whole group. Working together, the dragons fly low and proceed to separate and tire out their mark by swooping at their quarry and spitting their toxungan at its face. Blinded and bleeding, the hunt ends when one of the dragons sinks their talons or teeth into the throat of their prey. Breeding pairs build a nest in the crown of a prickle tree over the dry season. Mothers lay one egg in the late autumn that the father coats with his toxin, which is incubated for 60 days. Wormlings are ready to leave the nest 120 days after hatching. In that time, the parents take turns mining the nest and hunting with their older children and allied neighbors until the wormling fledges. Young red-winged black dragons stay with their parents for several years, eventually roosting in the margins of their territory and reuniting with their families to form strikes. Redwings take 7 to 8 years to fully mature. Then they seek a partner during the dry season, when black dragons congregate to hunt in large herds of herbivores that gather to mate near the perennial sources of surface water. Savanna owlbears are keystone predators on the Erukian savanna. They are large, solitary hunters weighing 500 kilograms and standing 1.5 meters at the shoulder that ambush megafauna in the shrublands and steppe forests. Owlbears have retained a few notable ancestral traits from the stem Dovian monotrematiforms: knuckle walking and a pair of venomous ankle spurs on their hind legs. Knuckle walking prevents damage to the long claws on their forelimbs that they use to grip and bring down megafauna. The ankle spurs have a paralytic venom that can help bring down their prey. However, the production of venom increases in male owlbears during the mating season, when they wrestle with one another to establish dominance. These contests are rarely deadly, and the venomous spurs spare the owlbears from wielding their claws and beaks against rivals. Male owlbears have loose territories that overlap with other males, while female owlbears establish dens in the buffer zones. Prime territories support prey throughout the year and include a mosaic of lowland floodplains, riparian forests, and open shrublands. Since female owlbears have fixed dens, they tend to be larger than the males. While owlbears are solitary hunters, they maintain reciprocal social relationships with their neighbors by sharing kills, especially with those of the opposite sex. During the mating season, neighboring males spar to establish control over female dens, and roaming bachelors or males from marginal territories attempt to usurp dominant males in prime territories. Female owlbears are not passive in the process. They have been known to intervene in contests over their dens, rebuke new males without a pre-established relationship, and abandon dens after a territory changes ownership. Successful males also provide kills as nuptial gifts to their new mates to strengthen their bond. Female owlbears lay 2 eggs in their nest at the end of the rainy season. The mother incubates her egg and sweats milk from their areola to keep the leathery soft shells moist. After a 3-week incubation period, the eggs hatch and she nurses the puggles throughout the dry season. While the mother nurses, a father regularly drags kills to her den to share. A dominant male can have several mates, so he must make frequent kills to keep them fed. If the territory changes ownership, then the new males often support the mother in raising her current puggles. Providing the mother with food establishes a relationship prior to the next mating season. On the other hand, trying to kill a mother's puggles provokes lifelong hostility. Unlike sparring between rivals, female owlbears will kill a male caught in the act of infanticide. Once the equinox rains arrive, the mother leaves the den to hunt her puggle its first solid food, marking the transition of the puggle to a cub. Owlbear cubs stay with the mother for a year and a half, after which they hunt on their father's territory until the next mating season, when bachelors will search for their own territory, usually on marginal land, and bachelorettes will seek out a good den. Towering over the savanna, minotaurs are some of the largest animals on Erukia, and the lowland minotaurs are giants. Cows can reach 2.7 meters, while bulls exceed 3 meters at the shoulder. Minotaurs are a more basal family in the same order as Yales and Capals, but maintain ancestral characteristics like knuckle walking. Lowland minotaurs are mega herbivores. Calves feed on shrubs, while adults use their long arms and claws to pull down tree branches. They need to drink over 100 liters a day and are never far from a source of surface water. Herds browse riparian woodlands throughout the dry season, and are often found wading in the rivers to keep cool. In the wet season, minotaurs travel between open forests and gallery forests along the seasonal rivers. Like Yales, cows and bulls have their own herds. Cow herds are composed of related females and their calves. But young, unrelated bulls travel in small herds, and older, dominant bulls often roam alone or in pairs. Herds form rings around their young and face the threat. Fully grown adult minotaurs have few predators and possess formidable defenses. Their facial mask sports pairs of 30-centimeter brow spikes and meter-long horns, and each arm has 4 claws over 50 centimeters in length. However, calves and young adults are still preyed upon by owlbears and dragons. Minotaurs are opportunistic breeders. Rainfall triggers bulls to mate, so most rutting occurs between the autumn and spring. Dominant bulls become extremely aggressive and seek out receptive cows. Once the aroused bull locates a breeding cow, he makes his presence known. The cow will ignore the bull as she travels with her herd. The bull follows, guarding the cow from other potential suitors. Competing bulls will first lock horns and strike with their fists to avoid serious injury, which usually settles the matter. The fight can escalate to duels to the death when one resorts to wielding their claws. After days or weeks of trailing the cow, she offers an invitation to mate. If the bull tries to approach the cow beforehand, then the herd will drive the bull away. After mating, the bull lingers for a few days before leaving the herd. The cow gestates the egg for 5 months, then lays it into her pouch, and incubates the egg for a month. The mother nurses her puggle in the pouch for a year when the Minotaur pup emerges. Young bulls eventually go on to join bachelor herds, while young cows stay with the matrilineal herd that they grew up in. Green dragons are terrestrial, or two-fingered dragons, that diverge from the one-fingered dragons after their ancestor arrived in Erukia. Golden-tailed green dragons soar over the herblands, shrublands, and open forests of the savanna, avoiding riparian and dry forests, where the density of trees prevents easy landings and takeoffs. Goldtails are 3 meters at the shoulder and almost 4 meters at the brow. Adults exhibit some of the largest wingspans among Erukian dragons, reaching 11 meters. All dragon wings have elastic fibers that allow them to stretch and bend the patagium. In conjunction with flexing their styloform bone and the extended third digit on the leading edge during flight, these fibers allow green dragons to adjust their wing shapes for low-energy soaring or short bursts of high-energy rapid flight. Golden-tails are quite strong flyers and have been seen lifting hunted Yales or young Minotaurs back to their lairs. The impressive plume of golden tail ribbons from which the species gets its name are over 3 meters long. Green dragons exhibit a unique behavior with their crests and tails, fanning out their ribbons as a threat or courtship display. Two-fingered Erukian dragons inherited the toxogen system from the ancestral Erukian dragon, and golden-tailed greens are no exception. The toxogen gland produces a noxious liquid containing acids and vesicants like cantharidin that is used in courtship rituals, interspecific competition, and hunting. Golden-tails can store enough toxin for about 20 uses, like their smaller relatives. Contact with the skin causes chemical burns and blisters, while eye contact can result in permanent blindness. The third eyelid of green dragons heals quickly and contains oils to dilute noxious substances. Adult golden-tails can spit accurately at a distance of 8 meters. Immature dragons also use the toxogen as a defense against predation. Two-toe dragons build their nests in natural formations. Larger species, like goldtails, establish lairs in caves. The slopes of the Aravnian highlands and the Kotars overlooking the savanna are home to many breeding pairs. But the largest density of golden-tailed dragon lairs are found in limestone caverns along the Ahaxians. The territory of an adult union includes core hunting grounds and a periphery they hunt in during leaner years. Solitary goldtails, or young unions, live in less desirable territories between these peripheries, which provides a buffer zone between breeding pairs. From the air, they dive and swoop upon their prey, spitting their toxogen to panic herds and killing with their talons. On land, they wait in copses of trees or thickets of tall shrubs for an opportunity, then charge their target with a sudden burst of speed and clamp their massive jaws around their quarry. Unions coordinate hunts and demonstrate complex strategies for driving herds and separating targeted prey. Greens are opportunistic scavengers that steal kills from smaller dragons, and a union can even bully owlbears. When one golden tail in a union dies, the survivor mourns in a brief period before crying out for a new mate at the edges of its territory, evoking a dragon storm. Dragons of the opposite sex converge on the survivor's territory to compete to be the new mate, while dragons of the same sex arrive to unseat the widow or widower. Young couples also haunt the territory, waiting for an opportunity to force the exhausted victors out and claim the territory for themselves. Greens start by posturing. They shake their fan tails, flap their wings, snap their jaws, and spray into the air. If neither backs down, then a fight breaks out. On land, dragons close to spit, bite, and rake with their foreclaws, and leap at each other to kick with their hind legs. Greens also take to the skies to engage in aerial combat, which begins with circling and maneuvering for advantage, before diving into mid-air spits, strikes, or grappling. It isn't uncommon for golden-tails to exhaust their toxin reservoir during a dragon storm. Even though Erukian dragon bones are heavily pneumatized, the bone walls are constructed from perpendicular layers of material, and the interiors are reinforced by a honeycomb structure, which makes them incredibly tough. Likewise, their lightweight, efficient muscles have been honed for strength. The vicious melees between golden-tailed greens are terrible demonstrations of the Erukian dragon's robust physiology. Breeding unions lay one egg every 3 or 4 years. The father coats the egg with his toxungin, and the mother buries the egg in a humid nest made of compost within the layer. The wormling hatches after 3 months, and lives in the layer for another 6 months. While the egg incubates, and before the wormling fledges, the parents take turns hunting and bringing back kills. Once the young dragon can fly, the family is inseparable, and the child relies on their parents for the next 2 years. In the 3rd year, the young adult becomes more independent, hunts alone, and prepares a lair in the periphery of its parents' territory. By the time the union is ready to lay another egg, their last child has left the lair. Subadults tend to stay in the peripheries or margins of their birth territory, forming strikes with their siblings or parents to hunt, especially when one parent is minding an egg or wormlings in the lair. After a golden-tail matures and their plume of ribbons is fully grown, which takes about 8 or 9 years, they seek out a mate and become responsive to dragon storms. This chapter provided an overview of the Dovian realms in the present era before exploring the Erukian tropical savanna. We introduced the prickle plant, which is the species of flora foundational to the ecoregion, and 8 animals and a variety of niches that are important members of the community, from tiny raindrop sprites to massive lowland minotaurs, and herbivorous shovel-nosed brownies to terrifying golden-tailed green dragons. Next time, we will turn our attention to the northern jungle and explore the species that make the lowland tropical rainforest ecoregion unique. I want to give a shout out and thank you to my new patrons since the last video: Adventurer Sale, Traveler Jake, and Explorer Kate. If you would like to support the creation of the Speculative Atlas and exploring lands unknown, then you too can become a member of the Speculative Geographers Guild over at Patreon. A big thank you to Bibloridian for being my evolutionary history sounding board, reviewing the script, and providing great suggestions. As a geographer, I'm familiar with biogeography and human-environment interactions, but that's quite different from speculative biology, and I really appreciate Bib's experience and time. You can check out our stream on polities, state formation, and early urbanism from the World Building Festival 2025 here, and Bibloridian's ongoing alien anthropology series on his channel. I'd also like to thank my friend and colleague Indigo. Designing the prickle plants and other metamorph flora was really exciting to me, but it took me out of my knowledge area, so I feel incredibly lucky that they shared their horticultural expertise with me for the Spec Atlas. That's it for this chapter. I hope you'll accompany me in exploring the northern jungles next time.